A friend of mine asked me to come to one of the nights, and since I already had a faith in God, I thought it sounded fun. After a few months of regular attendance, I really started to question the depth of my faith and if I was truly living my life for God. One night, a service really hit home for me, and one of my friends created this mental picture of a God who created the entire universe just because he had this idea of me. She elaborated that everything he designed, mountains, oceans, stars, and time, were created just because he wanted to one day have a relationship with me. This made it so incredibly personal, and I had never thought about God in that way before. I had always just thought of him as someone to pray and sing to, but not much else. I joined a small group called the Identity Project, and I learned to seek the deeper side of faith and ask the big questions and discuss the ideas of God. After those 2 years, I was much more prepared to defend and uphold my faith in all aspects of life.
For me, my faith identity moment happened at a church conference my youth group attends every summer, called CIY Move. It's basically a week invested in your faith and working to build it stronger. It's a week of amazing speakers, worship, and of course, a lot of laughter and fun. But more importantly, my faith became solidified there the first time I attended, the summer before freshman year. The week had been emotional and inspiring, and it got to the last night when they really hit us hard. They said that although they know many of us have been baptized, how many of us have been redeemed and are living a life for Christ? They opened up the choice to us to be redeemed and begin our true faith journey, a journey of incredible forgiveness, passion, and love. I realized that I was growing up and had to begin forming my own beliefs and values, rather than just following my parents' footsteps. However, I am incredibly grateful to have had a family that has helped raise me up in a Christian home and have given me a good foundation. CIY gave me the realization that God wasn't just a man in the sky that ruled over us all, but a Father that takes care of us and is around us at all times. I also discovered my favorite Bible verse there, Jeremiah 29:11. For I alone knows the plans for you, says the Lord, plans to prosper you and not to harm you, plans to give you hope and a future. This is a verse that gets me through life and encourages me in everything I do.
Some of these aspects of life include my morals and values. While I was taught by my parents to have high moral standards, high school often takes these into question. All students are subjected to different temptations very quickly from the time they enter high school, and each person chooses to handle them differently. Some people only have to face them once or twice, while for others it's an everyday battle. My two most common moral dilemmas are not necessarily as extreme as some people face. For example, gossip and anger are the most trying battles I face daily, and that I often forget the people I am talking about and the people I am angry with are children of God as well, and that if He and in His great power can choose to love and forgive them, I need to as well. In school, boundaries are often pushed to the point so often that they become the norm. I have to watch myself and know that what the population is doing is not necessarily the highest or more moral value. We are all called to lead a life that imitates Jesus. That's why we're called Christians, or little Christs. And as we go forward in life, we need to remember to live to the higher standard that is set by our Creator.
As a teen, I think I've heard the expression peer pressure more times than I can count. We are constantly taught how to combat peer pressure and say no to the things we aren't comfortable with. While these lessons are great, when it actually gets to the situation you're being peer pressured in, the just say no idea is difficult to use. Through my faith, I have been taught lessons in how to establish my morals and uphold them, so that when it gets to the point of peer pressure, my moral standards come naturally. It doesn't mean it isn't still difficult, especially if the people pressuring you are the ones you trust and care about. But having your morals clearly defined in your conscience does help. There's a quote that says, "We are what we repeatedly do. Excellence, therefore, is not an act, but a habit." I think excellence here can be replaced with beliefs. If we have ingrained in us what we believe is right and what we know we do not want to do, those beliefs are part of you and are habitual. Rather than worrying about putting up an act of turning people down when pressured, you can trust that through your faith and your relationship with God, you have the strength and willpower to overcome those pressuring situations.
Education is a part of our culture. We have been in school for the majority of our lives and will be in school for quite a few more years. Being that we spend a huge chunk of our waking hours at school, there is an undeniable influence that education has on faith. On a smaller scale, I find myself in constant prayer when it comes to big events like tests. I pray that he would help give me strength to calm my nerves, especially during stats tests. But a major one is the controversy that comes up in science occasionally. For me, the more I learn, however, is the more I revel in the awesome complexities that God has created and how undeniable his presence and design is in the world. God does remain a mystery, and I know that we can never fully appreciate or understand everything, but that is where faith comes in. I know that sounds like many of the sermons you hear in church, but it makes a difference as we go through trials and questions. Faith can be such a beautiful part of your education if you allow it to be. I know it has made a difference in mine.
I am not a science person, nor will I ever be. So when it comes to those controversial debates of science versus religion, I'm not the person to turn to. However, that is one lesson I have learned through faith and education. Sometimes you don't know all the answers, and sometimes you don't know what to say. It can be nerve-wracking to sit in a classroom and try to find the right answer to begin with. But when you add religion into the mix, it gets even more scary, especially since having religion in the classroom is controversial as well. However, I find that there are always ways to casually make a point in your faith that can make an impact. For example, in AP English, we have discussions over books and stories that often have religious themes to them, which is the perfect opportunity for a peaceful discussion on beliefs. Overall, this world will push you and question you because you are a Christian, because this world questions everybody and everything. But an education is actually an excellent strengthener of your faith, as it makes you sit and think about not just what you believe, but why. I have learned that by taking these topics and questions from the classroom to my church and youth group, I have obtained not only answers and support to show what I believe in, but also a stronger feeling of confidence in my faith.
Ultimately, my future educational goals were determined by my faith. I want nothing more than to be a servant to God's people, and I have found my strengths to be working with organizations to better the lives of people in poverty or other struggles. Each person is gifted with something different that God intends for them to turn around and use for the betterment of his kingdom. Mahatma Gandhi once said, "The best way to find yourself is to lose yourself in the service of others." I once sat in a service that discussed the topic of money. Someone had asked if it was okay to be a Christian and make a lot of money. The answer the speaker gave was yes. The speaker simply cautioned that people should not idolize their money, which is a danger that can go hand in hand with that lifestyle. God calls us to return a portion back to him, and we are called to serve the poor, lame, and hungry. However you do this is up to you. As we take the next steps towards our future, we need to remember that what we are living for and to not take any moment for granted. God's greatest gift he can give us is this life. And I hope and pray that you will take this time to reflect on what you intend to do with the education you have received as part of Morris Community High School. We were given this great opportunity to be Redskins together, and that is an experience that cannot be replicated. This is a time of great change and great excitement, and I know we will all be tested and changed in the coming years. But we can take comfort in knowing that God will never change, and he will always be a source of light that you can turn to wherever you are in your journey.
I know there are 3 things I'm good at: reading, writing, and talking. Hence why I chose to pursue a degree in communications and journalism. I like to speak and write to get a message out. Today, the message I want to make is this: be proud of your faith. You always hear be proud of who you are, but I want to stress that your faith is what will always hold you together. It is therefore an extremely significant part of who you are. As I thought about what I wanted to do with my life, I kept thinking about how my faith would be a part of it and how I could continue to exemplify that faith. It was difficult for me because I felt like I didn't know what I could do as a career that would allow my faith to show, other than the obvious choice of ministry. Then I heard a speaker at another church conference that gave me a mind-blowing moment. She said, "You don't have to go into ministry to work for Christ. You can do something that seemingly doesn't have any hint of God in it and bring that light of Christ there. Just because you're not a preacher doesn't mean you can't still speak for God in your career." Those were the words I needed to hear to comfort me and reassure me that I could go into communications and still do Christian work. So another message from me today is just what that speaker said. Don't be afraid to bring your faith into whatever field you're going into. Whether it be the medical field, business, communications, or whatever, there's always the opportunity to bring God into it. I could not be more grateful to be a Morris Redskin. And as I leave this place and all the memories, I am also reminded of the faith I have grown and developed over my years here. I look forward to all that is to come in the future, and I'm excited to attend a Jesuit university where my faith will continue to be pushed and I will be able to embark on plenty of service opportunities. Congratulations, class of 2014. And I pray for all of us as we graduate and continue on to fantastic new adventures. Thank you.